I think Harbaugh's, just like Tom, he's a good enough coach to overcome a coordinator change. So you'll see some change as long as he doesn't go from a 4-3 to a 3-4, where now you don't have enough linebackers to get your edge rushers in. You got to change personnel at that point. If you keep the same scheme, you can run different defenses out of it, but you just can't go from a 3-4 to a 4-3 or vice versa without changing a whole bunch of players.
Welcome to Six Rings and Counting. I'm your host, Corey Idle, and joining me, as always, is your man, Lou Willard. Mr. Willard, how are we hanging today?
Oh, man, this hanging low and to the left, baby. Hanging low and to the left.
Well, moving on from that, we're going to continue getting to know our division rivals. And that means we're taking a trip to Baltimore, the town that Ray built.
Oh, I don't know about all that. He was all right. You know what I mean? I went Ray built.
I mean,
he was good. I mean, I give it to him. He was a dog. Him and Ed Reed, they caused problems back in the day.
Yeah, they were a bit of a problem. This Ravens team, also a little bit of a problem. Last year, they won the division, obviously. I think they had one of the top seeds in the playoffs. They went 13-4, fourth in overall points, first in points allowed, which was the seventh best defensive unit in the last decade.
Yeah.
And what did they do with that? They lost their defensive coordinator. He is gone. And in comes the new boy, Zach Orr. Lou, we were talking a little bit about this before the show. What kind of impact do you think this is going to have, not only for this team, but what impact would this have overall for any team?
Oh, it's a huge impact. I mean, especially when you had a defense like that, and they had some losses too. But when you lose coordinators, man, it's a big change. I mean, we know. I mean, we do a Six Rings Accounting podcast. New offensive coordinator coming in. Nobody knows what to expect, though we all think we know. You know, yeah. and so we're basically, you know, I say hoping one has shit in the other one, see which one fill up first. Well, we hoping this time that it's actually hope, you know, and they're doing the same thing, but a lot of the personnel, if you got the head coach still intact, you can get away with a coordinator change. And I think Harbaugh's, just like Tom, he's a good enough coach to overcome a coordinator change. So you'll see some change as long as he doesn't go from a 4-3 to a 3-4, where now you don't have enough linebackers to get your edge rushers in. You got to change personnel at that point. If you keep the same scheme, you can run different defenses out of it, but you just can't go from a 3-4 to a 4-3 or vice versa without changing a whole bunch of players.
Fair enough. And you speak about lost personnel, not just on defense. Not just on defense, but holy cow, they lost Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Patrick Queen, welcome to Pittsburgh, Jadeveon Clowney, Kevin Zeitler on the offensive line, Morgan Moses on the offensive line, John Simpson off the offensive line.
Yep.
You're pointing at the defensive coordinator as maybe being the weak spot on this team now. New guy coming in, maybe some things changing up.
It's just unknown, yeah.
I'm pointing to this offensive line. You lost three big-time starters on that line. And now you did bring in some new guys. You got some new guys coming in. But again, as much as that defensive coordinator, we've talked about it on this show with Pittsburgh's new offensive line, that offensive line's got to be humming. Those guys got to be able to communicate. They are the anchor of that offensive squad. And that seems so shaky to me, losing these guys.
But with Baltimore being run first, it's very important that these guys click. So, again, you go back to a very, very smart, even though that's our rival, the Browns aren't our rival. For us longtime fans, Browns will always be, but it's really the Ravens now, which were formerly the Browns. But nonetheless, they're a smart organization. They knew they were going to have three new starters on the offensive line. What'd they do? They went out and got Derrick Henry. If that doesn't help out three new starters on the offensive line, what is going to? So they have him. They still have Keon Mitchell coming back, who was a playmaker. Dude was breaking. He was averaging 9 yards a carry before he got hurt, which is not going to be sustainable in the NFL ever. If it would have been sustainable, Barry Sanders would have done it. But nonetheless, you have that option. But what they have to change is you stick to what you do. Like this team was a number 1 seed, and I can't believe they got to the AFC Championship game and ran the ball a total of 16 times. I could not. I watched it and couldn't believe it. They lost to a Chiefs team that defense that we just talked about, how great they were last year, held the Chiefs scoreless in the second half, and you still lost the game. And not only that, and this shocked me, they lost their composure.
Yes.
They wanted to fight. The Chiefs just kept playing football. And all the personal foul calls were going against the home team, which is rare to see, but they were personal fouls. But nonetheless, straying off on a rant. But if those linemen gel, because Pittsburgh essentially has 3 new starters, because you're taking Broderick Jones from the right side to the left side. So a different position. And then you have the 2 rookies coming in to start. So these teams they can't get out each other's way. They're so similar, so similar. Both want to run the ball. That's why this rivalry has been one of the best in the NFL in the last few decades.
So you bring up Keaton Mitchell. Probably not going to be able to start the season. We'll probably see him a little later, which means right now
with that injury,
exactly, with ACL tear, I believe. With the loss of Edwards and Dobbins, that basically makes this Derrick Henry's backfield, which is fine. I mean, he is Derrick Henry. However, last year, we got to see Derrick Henry in the AFC North a little bit, and he did not fare well. Do you think that's going to translate, or do you think that is more of he had Will Levis at quarterback, not Lamar Jackson, who you must account for? And does Lamar become a bigger focal point in the running game more so than he has?
I think he becomes less of a focal point. He being Lamar, too many pronouns, pal. But he being Lamar, he becomes less of a focal point. That's why they went and got the running back they got. And there's a few things here, and I was going to talk about this when we do our next show on the Bengals. So folks, please listen into that one too. Mm-hmm. He's coming from a division that's not very physical. I mean, everybody in the NFL is physical, but AFC North football, when you start talking about the Ravens defense, the Steelers defense, and the Browns defense, they are brutally physical. You are going to get hit early and often. You're getting hard. And hard, which means the linemen that you play with on the offensive side of the ball are what? Very physical. So his offensive line, I would venture to say, is going to be more physical than the line in Tennessee. And I know some Tennessee fans will hear this and here we go, but we can have that debate too. And those linemen should take it personal in Tennessee. But I just think you get more physical offensive lines in the AFC North because you have teams that run the ball. They have no choice but to be more physical. They have to be physical, and Tennessee wants to be that. And I know those players down there with Coach Vrabes, and I know Vrabes I was fortunate enough to play with Vrabes for a year, but I know he's a physical coach. They're going to play a physical brand, but I still think where he's going now is going to be more physical than what it was in the AFC South. Nobody really sees Jacksonville as a physical team, the Texans as a physical team. The coach used to be, when they had Manning, they were a little bit more physical with Bob Sanders and those guys. It's in the same NFC South. The North has not changed. They still physical. And that goes back to the coaches as well. I mean, you look at those 3 coaches, they coach a physical brand of football.
No, they absolutely do. And
sorry,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was saying that's what's going. They're going to lean away from Lamar running the ball as much because he's getting older too. You can't get him hurt, and now you've guaranteed him a whole lot of money. Yeah, you guaranteed him a whole lot of money. So they're going to put this on Derrick Henry, but he's also getting long in the tooth. He has to be able to hold up. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
No, it's going to be a very interesting, and we're going to take a glimpse of that right now. We're not going to pay much attention to the preseason because, quite frankly, who cares about that?
Yeah.
But as you can see here, we got the Chiefs, right out the rip. Opening night, Thursday, the NFL kickoff, 8:20 p.m. at the Chiefs. Do you think the Ravens come out hot and the Chiefs lay back a little bit? Is this a little bit like the Detroit Kansas City game we got to see last year?
I mean, it could very well be. The Chiefs aren't playing for the regular season. They're playing to win the division and go to the playoffs. They're not really playing for the regular season this early. But I guarantee you one thing you will see, and this is being recorded, the Ravens will run the ball 38 times. They ran it 16 times the last time they played them, and that's why they lost.
Yep.
They will run the ball 38 times. I guarantee you they run it 38 or more.
So you're saying if you're a fantasy guy, draft Derrick Henry, if for nothing else, just the daily leagues.
For look, week one. Just take it for week one if that's what they are going to make a point to run the ball. And you could take Lamar for this game too, because he's going to run it, probably throw it about, I would say he's probably going to throw it 15 to 20 times, but they're running the ball 38 plus times. I'll be shocked if they don't, because that's what they do.
Yeah.
That's what they built their reputation on. That's what they hung their hat on. Not only do they do it, damn it, they do it well. So why'd you go away from that? They're asking themselves the same thing, though. They can't believe they only ran it 16 times. So I think they're going to come out and try to make a statement in this game and run the ball.
And folks,
get back to what they were doing.
This is how you know Lou is actually a true football fan and not just a fan of a team, because he is so mad at the Ravens and he hates the Ravens. But he is so mad at them. He's madder than most of the Ravens fans are still. It's insane.
They were messing up the game. Run the ball. I want to see a good game. You know what I'm saying? I like the game, but I'm going out of here a Steelers fan. That's bottom line. They wasn't playing us.
I'm with it.
Hey, that shit ain't coming when they play us. Run it 38 times. You want to. We got something for them.
Yeah, you're going to have a problem. You try that crap in Pittsburgh. That being said, we don't get to see them for a very long time. However, the Ravens' schedule does not get easier. You get the Raiders, Cowboys, Bills, Bengals. Some people will say you get a little bit of break then at the Commanders.
Because they get them at home. Baltimore is a very good football team at home. They show up at home for sure. But that at Cowboys, home against the Bills, at the Bengals, they could lose all three of those.
That's a
rough start. They could lose at the Chiefs. They could be starting 1-4. And in this division, in the North, you cannot start 1-4 and hope to catch up.
No.
So they have to start fast because they get the Commanders, but at the Buccaneers isn't going to be an easy game. They're not great, but they're not a pushover. And then you're at Cleveland,
which is probably a loss given the way things tend to go.
Which is going to be, that is brutal to go up there and play. Then look at it. Broncos, which should be a win, but then Bengals, Steelers, Chargers, Eagles. And this is not an easy schedule. They argued, I think they came out with the second toughest schedule in the league.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see why.
Yes. At Steelers, at Chargers. You get the Eagles at home, which I guess is lucky.
I guess, but it's also right across the river.
Yeah, that's not really an away game.
The Eagles are taking a bus to the game. They're not even flying. They're taking a bus. So, I mean, that is going to be a hell of a game. The Eagles will have a lot of fans there, and it'll be a hell of a football game. But then, they get their bye week, which will be needed. And then you get the Giants, which you should win. But then their last three, Steelers, Texans, Browns. That's why when all the Steelers fans was complaining about their Steelers schedule, hey, baby, everybody got this schedule.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I didn't appreciate what they did with the Steelers is the 3 games in 10 days, and then you don't play a division game until week 10. But all these guys I'm sitting here looking at it. Ravens don't play until week 8. No, they got the Bengals early. They get the Bengals in week 5. But the Steelers play all theirs on the back end, but the bottom line is you've got to play them.
Well, clearly the schedule makers for the Steelers heard all the rave reviews about not having a bye week in like 48 years a couple years ago, and they just said, fine, here you go. 3 games, 10 days, have fun.
Yeah, and I'll take your buys in and out of those. Steelers get longer weeks.
Yes, they do.
But,
let me ask you a question, because having the bye week in week 14, Is that a good thing for a perennial playoff team? Would you rather have that late, or with this kind of schedule, would you want that kind of more middle of the road?
No, the way I look at it, and it's all subjective, but the way I look at it is you're a perennial playoff team. The Ravens have to love this bye because they don't plan to start slow. Through those first 13 games, they're going to be pissed if they're not 10-3. So if you're 10-3 going into that bye, you love it because now guys can get healthy. And on paper, there are no easy games in the NFL, but you come off the Eagles at home, which means you don't even have to fly back home after the game. So that buys you a few more hours, and those hours make a difference. Then you get a bye. Then you get the Giants. And you only got, again, you're going to New Jersey, going across the river. You're not going far.
Right.
Short flight, you're right there. And what's could be quoted as an easy game on paper, the Ravens should kill the Giants. But therefore, they'll probably lose. You know how that goes in the NFL. And that gets you ready for that stretch run, against the Steelers at home, at the Texans, and at home against the Browns, which could be for the final playoff spot. At home against the Browns, Week 18 could be winner in, loser out. It could be winner wins the division and gets a home game. That game is going to be huge.
All three of those final games, Steelers, Texans, and Browns, all have massive, not only division implications, but playoffs, especially more for the Texans game. All three of those games.
Home playoff game, not just a playoff game, but I'll tell you that Browns and Ravens could come down for the division, and it could come down to see who get into the playoffs and who doesn't. Either spectrum.
And what the hell am I just now seeing here? There's a game on Netflix on Christmas Day. Damn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Check you out.
Matter of fact, all the games on Christmas Day are on Netflix, I believe.
Makes sense. Why would you make them free on Christmas? Anyway, so looking at this schedule, looking at this team, we've gone over losses. The really only big gain, I mean, again, they did get some offensive line guys back, but the big game we talked about here being Derrick Henry, obviously a defense or a difference maker when you are talking about a team that loves to run the ball in a division that loves to run the ball. And not only that, but physically run the ball up the middle. Not a lot of trick plays you're running with Derrick Henry. That dude's going to run straight up the guts.
Yep.
What are you looking at with their record here this year? Last year they were 13-4. I think that is a big leap to put them at that again this year.
And the reason I say that is because Pittsburgh got so much better.
Yes.
In my opinion, Cleveland got better.
Yes.
Cincinnati gets their quarterback back. Hell, Cleveland gets their quarterback back. I'm just not sure if he's done or not. But if he's not done, somebody may win 13 games, but this could very well be a 9-8 football team. It could be a 13-4 football team. These games are going, but what they have on their side too, Justin Tucker still ain't missed a kick.
Yeah.
So if they have the ball and it's tied or they're down by 2 and they get to the 50, you lose because he's going to kick it 66 yards. He's done it. Right weather conditions, he's doing it again. But if they get to your 40, it's definitely a wrap. You have to beat them. And guess what they rarely ever do is get blown out. But you have to be up by 9 on them. You have to be up by 9 where they can't catch you with one possession. And that's what it is. So I could see them realistically winning 10 games. 10-7 where Pittsburgh was last year. And you might see this North is going to be rough. I'll make a bold prediction. Barring anybody's quarterback getting hurt, they'll probably all make the playoffs.
Yeah. I think the Bengals are the odd man out in that equation, but I think the big three, they're all making it.
And that's my concern with the Bengals. Like I say, we'll get to them, but that's my concern with them is, do they have they're good. Don't get me wrong. The first 3 players you say is Burrow, Higgins, and Chase. Really, Chase, Burrow, then Higgins. But they have questions in other places in the running back room and all that other stuff. But nonetheless, this team is going to the playoffs. I know we did a show a few weeks ago, and I said, Baltimore finished last. Well, that's wishful thinking. But they very well could, too. They very well could. But I mean, as you get into it, you look at the schedule. Browns have the hardest schedule. Baltimore second. I think Pittsburgh was what, third or fourth. I mean, Bengals are somewhere around 15th. So they got the quote unquote easiest route, which is that's all shenanigans because it goes off what teams did last year. No team in NFL is the same as they were last year. Everybody has new players. Yeah. Some have new coaches, coordinators, quarterbacks. Everything changes. But what this team has, a solid foundation, a great head coach, and you still have a 2-time MVP quarterback. They're going to be winning games. So, I mean, I would say 10-7, 11-6 is very realistic for this team.
And I was actually going to say 10-7, 11-6 myself, and I was going to take it a step further and say there's a good chance they go 11-6 and miss the playoffs.
They very well could. The AFC, not just the North, the AFC is that tough. Because if Anthony Richardson, and this is a team we won't cover, but if Anthony Richardson hits for the Colts, look at it. Their defense played well. Their defense played. I know the Texans got to them, but the Texans lit the Browns defense up. They just got hot and could nobody do nothing with them. They put 30 on the Steelers, put 45 on the Browns. I mean, they got hot. But nonetheless, these teams, those teams on other divisions can win 11, 12 games, and then it comes to tiebreakers. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the right tiebreaker, just in your conference, which if you're in the conference, you're already in this division, so that's going to rack up some losses for you. The Ravens will lose 3 games in the division. So when you start talking about their record, what do you think they're going to do outside of it? The Chiefs could very well be 4. There's your 4 losses right there. And like I said, they liable to stub their toe at the Giants off of a bye week because it's the NFL. It's the NFL. That will be 5 losses that quick. That's already 12-5, and who knows what else could happen.
And but you got Philly coming to town.
And you got Philly. So, you 11-6 or, 10-7, and then we'll see what happens. But they should still be hungry because they did not go to the Super Bowl. It's the teams that went and lost that you tend to start to worry about.
Nope, totally agree. I have to say 11-6, good chance they miss the Super Bowl. And just to follow suit with what every other media personality says out there, it is 100% Lamar Jackson's fault. And Lou agrees with me. For Lou Willard, I'm Corey Idle. This is 6 Rings Accounting. We will catch you next time.